All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we are going to be talking about our review for the test that we're going to be taking on Friday. So, looking right away, we talked about a couple of big ideas this unit. One of those is about parabolas and their graphs. Now, remember, on any parabola, the vertex is always the point that's either at the very bottom or the very top. So, in this situation, our vertex would have an x-coordinate of 5, and it would have a y-coordinate of negative 25. Now, for our axis of symmetry, if you remember, the axis of symmetry is that dotted line upon which, if you were to fold the parabola, it would land right on top of itself. Now, whenever we do this, our axis of symmetry is always going to be x equals a number, and the number is just whichever number that our line passes through. So in this situation, it passes through 5, so we're going to say x equals 5. Now for our x-intercepts, remember, that's where we cross the x-axis. This graph has 2 of them. Not every graph will have 2, but this one did. So it looks like our first one happens over here when we are at the point 0, 0, and this one happens when we are at the point 10, 0. Nice job. Now, looking ahead to our y-intercept, so remember our y-intercept is where does our graph cross this highlighted blue line over here? So our graph looks like it crosses through right on that x-intercept of 0, 0 again. So we can come over here again and put 0, 0. Now, concavity is kind of a new topic for us, but it's pretty basic, right? It's does the parabola open upwards or does it open downwards? Since the opening for this one is at the top, we're going to say that our concavity is up. Last but not least, we always want to look at it, right? So when we are looking at our parabola, the last question we're always asked is, does it have a minimum or a maximum value? Since this parabola has a low point, here's our low point, we would say that this one has a minimum. Nice job. Here's a problem for you to practice on your own right now, but it's going to be very similar and along the same lines as what we just did. Let's take a look at another topic. How do we find the vertex? So coming over here, when you get a vertex problem, what's going to happen is you are going to first want to identify A, B, and C. Remember, that's these 3 numbers. A is the first one, which is 1, B is the second one, which is 6, and C is the third one, which is also 6. Now, in order to find the vertex, you need to use the vertex formula, which is negative B divided by 2A. Now, I put my variables in parentheses there just to make sure I don't make any mistakes. So coming over here, we know our B value is 6, so I'm going to have a negative 6 over 2 times 1 because A is 1. Now, going through and simplifying this, remember, you can use your calculator here. That will be helpful. We'll get a negative 6 up top. 2 times 1 is going to give us 2. And then negative 6 divided by 2 is going to give us a negative 3. Now, that negative 3 is really important, guys, because that is going to be the x-coordinate of our vertex. To figure out the y-coordinate, what we're going to do is we are going to take whatever this value is, and we're going to plug it in right there and right there into our original equation. Now I'm going to put parentheses around there just so I make sure I get it in the right spot. So coming over here, let's grab our calculator. We're going to have 1 parenthesis, negative 3 to the second power, plus 6 parenthesis, negative 3, and then plus 6. And let your calculator do the work for you. And you're going to find out that when our x was negative 3, our y ended up being negative 3 in this problem. Let's do one more, and then we'll save one of those for you. So I think this time, actually, let's maybe do 2 of these right now because we got quite a few here. So let's do number 1. So we're going to have A, B, and C. Remember, our A value is going to be 2. Our B value is going to be negative 4. You got to take that negative sign with it. And our C value is going to be 1. Okay, so once you've gotten this far, then what you want to do is you want to use that vertex formula. So negative B over 2A. So our B value here is a negative 4. So I'm going to have a negative 4 divided by 2 times 2. So a negative 4, that's going to make us a positive 4. 2 times 2, that's going to give us a positive 4. And 4 divided by 4 is going to give us 1. So the x value of my vertex is going to be 1 here. Now, once I get that far, remember, your job is to take that point, and we want to plug that into the original equation wherever we see an x. But be careful, make sure you put parentheses just around the x. Notice how this 2 is still on the outside of the parentheses. Now, let's type that in. So if we go to our calculator, we are going to have 2, and then I get to that parenthesis, I'm going to put a 1 in there. That's being squared, minus 4, parenthesis, there's my 1 again. Oops, don't want that. And then last but not least, we add 1 at the end, and we get negative 1. So our answer for this one is that the vertex is at the point 1, negative 1. Let's do number 2 together, and I'm going to save 3 and 4 for you to practice on your own. So looking at problem number 2, notice how this one doesn't have an a value here, so you can put a 1 in. So our a is going to be 1, our b is going to be a positive 4, and our c is going to be 7. Once you get here, use your formula, kids. Negative b divided by 2a. So our b value here is going to be a positive 4, so I'm going to have a negative 4. And our a is 1, so I'm going to have 2 times 1. So up top I get negative 4, on the bottom I get 2. Negative 4 divided by 2 is a negative 2. So I get negative 2 right here. And remember, that becomes the x coordinate for our vertex. Now once you get that point, it's really important. You take that and you need to plug it back into the original equation. So put in your parentheses just around the x, and then grab your calculator. So we're going to have a 1 on the outside times negative 2, that's being squared, plus 4, parenthesis, negative 2, plus 7. And when I hit enter, I get a positive 3. So my vertex for this one ends up being at the point negative 2, positive 3. Nice job. So again, like I said, I'm going to save problems 3 and 4. I want you to practice those on your own, because that's exactly what you're going to have to do on the test on Friday. Now, here's another one. We actually have 2 more topics. Finding the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. We're going to start by finding the y-intercept first. Now, this is actually a pretty easy process for us. Remember that if I am given an equation, and that equation is written in standard form, which this is, right, ax squared plus bx plus c, my c value is always going to be my y-intercept. So if I'm looking for the y-intercept, and I know that my c value is my y-intercept, we've actually made a lot of progress here. Now, one thing to know about your y-intercept is that we should always write it as a point. And if it's the y-intercept, then the x value of that will always be 0. So in this situation, since this is positive 14, our answer will be 0, comma, positive 14. On the next problem, here's our c value again. So again, that's going to be our y-intercept, so we're going to make our point. And for the y-intercept, the x value will always be 0. So our answer here will just be 0, 12. Now here's the last one. Negative 72, that's a big number, it kind of scares me, but it's okay, because we just need to write 0, 72, and we're done. That's all we need to do for the y-intercept. Now, unfortunately, the x-intercept isn't quite as easy. When you come over here and you're being asked to find the x-intercept, what you need to do is factor. So you're going to have to remember the difference. The y-intercept is really easy. Maybe I'd remember that because the word easy has a y in it, right? So easy, y, hopefully you can remember that you just need this number c right there. Now, for the x-intercept, we're going to have to factor. And here's the thing I like about the x-intercept. How do we factor? Well, we use the x. So that's maybe a helpful way to remember. Remember, if this is 1, 1 times 12 becomes the top number, and 7 goes on the bottom. We're going to have 1x on the side and 1x on the side. And then we're just thinking, what 2 numbers multiply to give us 12 that add to give us 7? Well, that would be a positive 3, and a positive 4. So our factors would be x, right? 1x plus 3 and 1x plus 4. Now the last part of this problem, this is maybe where it gets the trickiest. What you need to do is now you look at this and you say, what's the opposite of a negative 3? Or I'm sorry, a positive 3. Well, of course, that's a negative 3. So that's going to be one of our answers. And for this one, what's the opposite of a positive 4? Well, negative 4. So once you get that far, then you just need to come over here and you're going to write negative 3, 0, and negative 4, 0. And you're going to be done, just like that. Right, so let's walk through that again. You need to factor it. Once you get the factored form, find the opposites, and then write those as a point. And remember, in the x-intercept, the y value is always going to be 0. It's kind of the opposite of the y-intercept, where the x value is always equal to 0. Let's do another one. So here's another one. So I'm going to make my x. 1 times 14 gives us 14 up top. We're going to have 1x here and 1x here. And then on the bottom, we're going to have 9. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply to be 14, that add to give us 9. And of course, that's a positive 7 and a positive 2. So my factored form will be 1x plus 7 and 1x plus 2. Now, hold on a minute. Look at that for a second. Right here and right here, what's the opposite of a positive 7? Well, that's negative 7. What's the opposite of a positive 2? That's negative 2. So our final answer here is just going to be a negative 7, comma 0. The 0 comes second in the x-intercept. And negative 2, comma 0. Just like that, kids. You're almost there. We got 2 of them on that problem. Let's do one last one. Here it is. So for this problem, we're finding the x-intercept, so we're going to have to use the x to factor it. So 1 times negative 8 is negative 8. You're going to get a 2 on the bottom. On the side, we're going to have 1x over and 1x over. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give us a negative 8 that add to give us a positive 2. So how about a positive 4 and a negative 2? I think that works. It works for the top and it works for the bottom. We got it. So my factored form is going to be 1x plus 4 and 1x minus 2. Then all we got to do is find the opposites. Opposite of a positive 4 is a negative 4. Opposite of a negative 2 is a positive 2. And we're just going to put comma 0 and comma 0. And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, you have found excuse me, your x-intercepts. Now, the most confusing part on this test, I think, is going to be the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So make sure you've taken good notes on this so that you can use those when you get to the test. Thank you guys so much for watching. You're going to go through now and work on the homework. If you have any questions, make sure you're reaching out. Have a good day.